So this is YMP TV on episode 7, and today we have Jean-Marc Lacoste, CEO of Monarch Gold Corporation. Hi, Jean-Marc.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Yourself at home? See that it's
Yeah,
cozy?
yeah, exactly. A new reality in the world we live in. So yes, talking to you from my home.
Great. And speaking of a new reality, I think that starts well our conversation is like the first question I want to ask you is how is the current situation with COVID-19 affecting the mining sector and more specifically Monarch Gold?
Well, first, it came as a surprise for everybody. I think it was the same thing for the rest of the world. We only had a few days, maybe a week. I remember again when it started, we started with an idea of a press release the first day. Next thing you know, 3 days later, it was a total different situation. So I would say that we adjusted fairly quickly. Mind you, we're on care and maintenance already at the Beaufort mine. But we had some drilling going on in McKinsey Break in Fayal deposit, and we got calls from the drillers saying the government issue a press release and we want to go home. So we said, okay, so let's start planning. We had 12 to 24 hours to pull the troops out back and sending them all in security at home, which we did. We quickly reverted back to the management, sent everybody home, put everybody on Zoom like we're talking right now. No publicity or no pun intended. But anyway, the idea is I think we adjusted fairly quickly and fairly fast, and everybody was very helpful. Monarch itself, we reduced the week hour of 40 hours a week to 32, just to help us on the cash flow side of it. And so everybody was very cooperating with the things that we decided to do forward. So I would say that overall we've been very good at adjusting, and we're hopeful that this will change or come back to some kind of normal in the next few weeks.
And how do you communicate with your shareholders and potentially reassure them on the situation with the company?
We do a lot, as you could probably see. I think that's how we got in touch to each other. I used a lot LinkedIn to give the current development in the company. We've issued a few press releases, but we're being careful with that because right now there's so much information coming to the public, being bombarded by what's happening in the world, that the press releases are not that efficient compared to their normal time. The good news is the basic commodity behind the company, the gold, is doing tremendously well. And that helps people coming by themselves to seek information about Monarch and where we're going and what we're doing. So I would say that the communication is good, not as good as it used to be prior to COVID-19, but I could tell right now people are knocking at the doors. We're getting a lot of emails, interest in the sector. And don't forget, Monarch Gold is a junior producer, explorer. So we're right there on the line where we can produce gold fairly quickly, and we have a lot of advanced projects. So I think when gold goes up like that, there's a trickle-down effect to the sector, and I think Monarch gains from that.
And what do you think will be the impact of COVID-19 on exploration financing?
Again, I think the recipe in our industry, it's not going to be easy. It was never easy. I've been the CEO in the junior world of gold exploration companies since 2004. Prior to Monarch, I was at a company called Golden Goose. We discovered or enhanced the Magino deposit in Ontario when I was the CEO. So I've been in the market for more than 16 years. It was never easy. It's never easy. It was a sector that was regarded as a highly speculative. It still is. But the good news now is gold is starting to gain momentum, a lot more than it did in 2012 at the end of the bull market. But it was after 7 years of desert crossing that we did. So I would say that I think the combination of the earthquake we got a few weeks ago and the price of gold going up, we should be able to have a little bit of a better listening ears from the investment community. So I'm hopeful that in the coming months, companies like ours with a lot of advanced project, 4.4 million ounces underground, we should attract the capital that want to risk and invest more money into gold. Again, we're trading at $15, $18 per ounces underground. The ounce of gold is trading at $2,400 Canadian right now, which is unbelievable. The NPV on all our project exploded in the last few weeks. Until people start doing the math, they're going to start realizing that you got to go down in the junior sector. So I'm expecting a wave of support and investment in the sector coming in the coming months after the big guys, the Agnico, Eldorado, YMP Gold of this world get a good basis going with the high price of gold. I think it's going to trickle down to us.
So you did mention gold quite a few times, like in terms of like prices or investors' interest. But so I guess like my next question is, do you think the current crisis will have an impact on the demand for gold and the gold prices as well?
Of course. Again, if you look at the news from the last few weeks, a lot of things happen that went under the radar and that the regular world of investment hasn't been looking or listening to. We've had a couple crises in the gold market and the bullion in New York, COMEX exchange and the London exchange. There's been failure or some kind of pressure towards the deliveries of the commodity. What does that mean? Is that people own a lot of paper gold, and when we say paper gold is you own share, you have share certificate representing an ounce of gold. And when you go to the bank or go to the delivery mechanism and you say, I would like to get physical gold, I'd like to get my brick at home or my currency or my basically different gold product from gold bars to gold coins. There's a very big premium to gold when you get to the physical gold. So there was a point about 2 weeks ago where gold was up $150 overnight because the people in New York at the COMEX had a hard time putting together the delivery versus the amount of people that hold gold. So I think this is just the beginning. You know, the world right now is holding about 2%, 1 to 2% of their portfolio in gold, and it should really be 5%. So the moment people decide to raise to 5%, there's not enough gold in the world to do that. And that when people realize that, they're going to say, wait a minute, if there's not enough gold, it should be a lot higher. And that's what I think we're about to see before the end of this year.
And do you think the mining industry and mining companies will operate differently in a post-COVID-19 world?
There will be a difference, definitely. The good news is underground and some of the operation, we're already using a lot of masks. I don't know if you noticed, you know, Monarch, we had a big inventory of masks. We gave it to the social services in the Val d'Or and Abitibi because we were in care maintenance. So we were happy to do our part. But I think if anybody in the industry, the mining sector, we've always been very prudent in the way we work at things, especially working underground and with heavy machinery. The security was always a top thing. So it's probably going to be a bit different, but I think we have the people and the nerve or the expertise to make sure that all these things are respected and implemented.
And do you think we'll see more M&A and consolidation in the market in the months or year to come because of this crisis?
I'm totally convinced it's going to happen. It already happened. And just to give you an example, this morning I woke up, I had a couple texts from investors, 3 rumors already about the company merging, what's happening next. And that's just because yesterday we had a pop in the market. I mean, even Monarch went up 20% yesterday. So you could tell there's some kind of an excitement, and that's the good part about the gold industry is we get excited really quick and we get in the mood very quick. And I have no doubt in my mind that the big producers will need to increase their reserves and resources. And when you look at a company like Monarch trading at $16, $17 per ounces underground, and you see an IM Gold trading way above $150 per ounce on the ground. Agnico, the same thing, Eldorado. So at the end of the day, when they grab a company like Monarch or want to take a stake or do something, they get ounces at a much lower price than they're actually priced in themselves. So yes, there will be a lot of M&A, and Monarch has been, on his own term, doing small M&As for the last few years. I mean, everything that we own was acquired from 6 different companies over the course of 7 years. In total, more than 15 properties were bought by Monarch. So we are aware of the M&A. We think it's a great opportunity. We've done everything we had to do when the market was much lower. So now we're happy to announce that we have 4.4 million ounces and ready to move. And I think that's going to show in the M&A market.
And then another change possibly, like, do you think with COVID-19 we'll see an increase in the appeal, maybe the demand for solution to reduce the human workforce on sites, like maybe like self-driving trucks and like remote operation centers? And
well, we're already there in the industry as a whole. If you look at our main project, Monarch Gold, we're at the permitting stage, and that project is using an electric railwayer system to bring back the ore to surface. And that's way different than using trucks and human beings to bring back the ore by truck from the deep down in the mine all the way to surface. So everything is automated on the Monarch project, and it's all electrical, so it's also good for the environment. So I think the industry was starting to get ready for new innovation in the last 5-year bear market, as we were looking for ways to be more efficient and bring the ore back to surface and different operation of the project. So yes, we will probably be a bit faster in developing these things now that the human social distancing is becoming an important thing. We don't know if COVID-19 will come back in the fall or next year, but we can tell that you got to be ready to operate in that in a world like that. So I think we'll learn a lot from this, and I think people will be more listening ears for new technology and ideas, and we should gain from that, everybody as a whole.
Well, Jean-Marc, one last question for you. What advice would you give to investors, and including our Millennium investors or members, in the current situation?
Well, my thing is very simple, and it's been like that for a while. I try to use it myself. You absolutely must have between 5 to 10% of your portfolio in gold. Now, it could be in very different way. You have the commodity, you could buy the physical gold, you could have storage facility where you buy gold, you could own gold senior company, like the big guys producing gold, and of course, for the leverage, you could have the junior exploration and exploitation company like us. We will offer a much bigger leverage when this thing starts being very robust to the upside, and I think we started about 2 weeks ago. So my thinking is, if you're putting $100 aside per week by now, make sure you get $5 to $10 in gold, especially in the wake of COVID-19, where you see the government, especially the US, injecting trillions of dollars in the economy. It will trickle down to the dollar and the value of a dollar. And that's why the 5 to 10% in gold in your portfolio will make you avert to any risk of any potential mismanagement from the different governments or the economy itself. We saw the correction in the stocks. So gold is a favored place to put your money securely. And there's many ways to invest in gold. And I think that's what people should retain. Gold should be the place for 5 to 10% of your portfolio. Throughout your life, you should always have something secure, just like you try to, buy a house and have a place to stay and have good food, as we saw in COVID-19. A lot of these things are very essential, but to preserve your capital and preserve your wealth, there's no doubt in my mind that he who does not have gold will regret it in the coming years.
That's great. Great advice. And thank you, Jean-Marc, for taking the time today to do this interview. I mean, we really appreciate, especially during the crisis, just to understand what's going on, how mining companies are doing. We usually give a token of appreciation to our speaker, like a bottle of wine or a book or anything. But given the current situation, it's a bit tricky. So what we have decided at YMP to do is to give a donation through our mining care initiative. So we'll be giving a sum of money to United Way in Greater Toronto to provide assistance for those needed during this period of COVID-19. And I'll provide a link to our listeners and our members so they can learn more about our initiative. And thank you again, Jean-Marc. It was a pleasure. Best of luck in the mining and stay safe.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for the donation. It was my pleasure to join and give you my 2 bits. Feel free to reach out again and be safe out there. It's a different world.